Hello, welcome to the channel. I am Jake. Thanks for tuning in here today. In this video, I want to talk about my favorite tree, the Carolina Silverbell. Scientific name, Halesea tetraptera, or tetraptera. That's how it's spelled. In the family Styraceae. Little side note here on scientific names. A lot of times, either the genus or the specific epithet, the first or second word there, one or the other or both, will have something to do with a feature of the tree, a characteristic, where it grows, or who first described it scientifically. So tetraptera, that refers to the seed on the tree. It has 4 wings, tetra, 4, terra, wing. So a lot of times that can be helpful with remembering scientific names when you think about what that name means. So with that said, I'm going to flip the camera around. We'll take a look at some of the characteristics for the Carolina Silverbell. Stick with me. We'll start by taking a look at the leaves for the Silverbell. Bring this one over here. It hasn't been chewed on too much. Insects tend to attack the leaves on Carolina Silverbell quite frequently, which honestly could be a help in identifying because it's such a common characteristic or common occurrence. Really nothing hugely definitive about the leaf itself. It's just an ovate leaf. That is the technical term for that leaf shape, alternately arranged. On the underside there are some hairs. The technical term for a leaf having hair on it is vestiture. There are many many types of vestiture. Most field guides will describe this as being pubescent, meaning that there are very small yet closely arranged, very thick hairs that tend to be along the midrib, which is this long vein right in the center, and along each vein on the side. They tend to be on either side of all of those, especially in the junctions here where the veins meet with the midrib. It's very difficult to see on camera, and it's very, very light pubescence also. There's really not much there, but that is the leaf for Carolina Silverbell. A more useful characteristic to identify Silverbell is the twig rather than the leaf. And I'm going to zoom in here real quick so I can show this. Get that showing pretty well there. Notice on the, if I can quit shaking, there we go. On the twig right there, the bark is somewhat shredded, and it is not very tight to the stem. If we move up here, you can see it is much smoother and more uniform. Nice sort of rich brown color there. And as we move back out here again to what would be the newer growth, you see it's rather shredded looking. Now, that is a characteristic you'll find on twigs that are, I would say, up to 3 years old. Once it gets older than that, it will transition into that smoother bark and won't show that shreddiness near as much. But on the newer growth, that is a huge help in identifying Silverbell, because not very many species will have shreddy bark that transitions abruptly into very smooth bark like this does. Now, as we get into the older bark, older stems, you see it develops this coloration here where there are a lot of light colored lines, very short lines, but light colored lines. And as it gets older, we'll just keep moving along this one, you get a little bit more intense until it gets to this point right here. Now, this is a sapling for Carolina Silverbell, and that is actually a mature one directly behind it. This back here, that is mature bark. You can see those lines have pretty much taken over the color there, and it's transitioned from the very rich brown color of the younger twigs through to rich brown with white lines on it, and now it is almost transitioned into having light colored bark with dark brown stripes on it. And then as it gets older, I'm just going to keep going from right here, it transitions into this bark right here. This is the mature bark. which is still multicolored. If you look right in here, get this to focus again, there we go. Look right in here, you have some light, kind of dirty gray through to very, very dark brown. And here and there, I tend to see purple. Not everyone agrees with me on that. When I was teaching dendrology, I would get on average about a 50-50 agreement-disagreement ratio on whether or not this tree is purple. Especially if you see it from a distance, like this patch right here. From a distance, to me that looks rather purple, which I think is interesting. And it's really easy to pick this up in the forest just because of the stark color contrast between those different scales there on the bark. Most of the trees that I'm seeing around me right now are either brown or gray. There's very few that are both at the same time, especially with very scaly bark like this one has. So that is mature Carolina Silverbell bark right there. So that is Carolina Silverbell, my absolute favorite tree. Has been ever since I took dendrology around about a decade ago. Very little chance that that's going to change anytime soon. Really like the Carolina Silverbell. Now then, where might you find this tree growing? Honestly, just about anywhere. I've seen this up high on dry ridgetops. I've seen it down low next to creeks and rivers. Where I am right now, though, is probably what I would consider prime site for Carolina Silverbell. If I was going to pick a spot to put one, this is where I would put it. And where I am right now is kind of a cove. Coves are typically characterized by having lots of shade, high soil moisture, but not a lot of flowing water nearby. I am not far from a river. There's a river just a little ways downhill from me, but I am far enough away that is not playing a huge role in the soil moisture where I am, especially since I'm uphill from it. And there are also certain species that tend to grow in the cove environment. Now these species can and certainly will grow outside of coves. When you find these all growing together, chances are pretty good that you're in a cove. One, of course, is Carolina Silverbell. Others include sugar maple, American basswood, yellow poplar, yellow buckeye, eastern hemlock. Lots of different species that like highly shaded areas, I should say, and pretty high soil moisture. Another one would be American beech. That's another species that you would probably be pretty commonly found in a cove. My brain is going faster than my mouth right now. Other things you might find that are not trees, I'm just looking at the ground right now: Solomon seal, rhododendron. There's lots of different things that can be found in coves. And when you find a huge number of those species growing together, huge number being, I would say, 10, especially different tree species, you're probably in that cove area. And you can look up what species are commonly found in coves, so it'll be a longer list than what I just said right now. But this is a pretty prime site for Carolina Silverbell. This is where I would put one if I was going to pick a spot. So that's all I have for now. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to leave those in a comment down below. And until next time, go forth, enjoy yourself, and always come home safe.